All right, so let's take a look actually of where we left off last time. You can see we have some movement going on here with our mouse, and it's pretty smooth because we did the transport, checked on the transport feature when we were essentially looking at our add local rotation. We checked on transport, so they gave us some smooth movement. Let's talk about maps, which I didn't get a chance to talk about last time because I felt like we were running a little over. Find your event begin play node. Let's go ahead and hit F to focus on that. And what I want to do is make another variable. And this variable is a different type of data structure than the arrays that we used last time. So in the array here, we have an index of 0, 1, and 2, right? And inside of this, what we can do essentially is we can reference whatever's stored inside here, which is stick, apple, or phone in our inventory system by that index number 0, 1, and 2. Well, there's another way of doing this using something called a map. So let's go ahead and press play here. And I'm going to leave this as type string. And because I've already used the map as my last variable type, it automatically remembered it. But I'm going to show you how to change that. So for my variable name here, I'm just going to name this one inventory. And in this inventory system, off to the side here, yours is probably going to either be still an array, but what you can do is you could adjust the variable type to whatever it is that you want. So this, I usually change it to a string because that's going to give me the name of my inventory. And then what is it you want to hold? So for example, in my inventory system, say this specific one, I want to store apples and then the number of count or whatever it is in my inventory. So I don't see this. So I'm going to go ahead and compile and save this because my type changed. And over here on the side, right next to where it says normally we did single and array, let's go ahead and select map and then make sure to compile and save that again. And then change the type that you're going to store to integer. And again, you probably have to compile and save. So I'm going to go ahead and press play here. Now for this inventory system, I'm going to just type apple, and I'm going to say that I have 25 apples here. And the interesting thing is it's like, okay, well, what really makes this any different? You changed, instead of apple, you use the number 0, and that's really what it is. But you can also change the type, like instead of an integer, a boolean, a game object, whatever. So I'm going to grab my inventory system, drag it out. I'm going to hit get. And the difference, though, is if you remember, we have this get here. But what we're going to be getting instead of the index number, we're going to be getting the actual word apple. So I'm going to type get. Oh, actually, I'm going to type find. We're not going to be using get. We're going to be using find. Sorry. Now, with find here, you'll notice there's this little key here. The key that we're looking for, I'm going to type in apple here, is apple. And what it's going to essentially find for us is the is the number that is stored in that first element, which is apple. And we can create a couple more if you want, just name it a banana or whatever. So I'm going to copy this for a second and just paste it up here. And let's drag this up a little bit. And I'm going to break this connection here just by dragging this and putting it inside of here. And I'm going to wire this. Let's put this on top just so it looks a little bit cleaner. And I'm just going to wire this directly inside of my string here. And it automatically converted it, right, from integer to a string value so that it'll take this number value and turn it into letters so that we could see it. So let's compile and save that. Let's go back to our test bed. And hopefully we should see the number 25, which we see here. So that's just another useful data structure or tool in your arsenal is using inventory. And you might be like, well, when would I use this, right? Well, you could use it again to identify elements of an inventory system. But more importantly, like as you begin to build your tutorial knowledge, or your knowledge from tutorials and people and just building games on your own, you'll understand how to use this language, right? We're talking about a visual scripting programming language. It's a way to speak more and more. All right, so let's take a look at expanding this a little bit, and then we'll get back to our game, right? So I like to cover a little bit of programming knowledge and then, like kind of this background stuff, and then we wrap it inside of a game. All right, so let's say we want to add an element to our map. We only have one element here. Let me go ahead and get rid of this guy. I'm just going to press delete on my keyboard or press the garbage. Oh, that removed all. All right, so let's add our apple back. And let's add 10 elements here. Okay, so what we can do is we can grab our inventory. We can get it again, right? And instead of using our set here, we could use let's type in map, and it'll show us, it should show us all the things that we can do with map here. I'll do it up here. It might be a little bit easier. So let's see, map. Actually, let's drag this out and then type map. There we go. We can add, we can clear all the elements, we can contain, we can find something in there, and we could check, is it empty, is it not empty? Let's start with this first one, which is add. So we can add an element inside of here. And then what is the element I want to add? Well, let's say I want to add, I don't know, health. It's like a health pickup or something. And how many do I want? Well, I want to add, every time I pick up this thing, it gives me 5 health or something, this pickup object. So I'm going to wire this in here. Actually, what we need to do is, now that we've added health to here, let's wire this to this. We actually need to go through this whole process where we find health, and then we wire that into a string. So I'm going to copy this whole chunk here. Command C, just where my cursor is, hit Command. No, let's go a little bit further out. Command V here. And then I'm going to wire that over here. Now, if you want to kind of test your brain a little bit, so it's not this just my boring monotone voice, what you could do is you can pause here and say, okay, what is the last element that's missing as I go through this that's going to give me essentially this health, right? Like that's going to show health here. So what do I have to modify here so that health shows up, the 5 of health shows up after the 10 of apple? All right, so if you probably guessed that you have to grab this health here and you have to paste it into find, because we're going to find health, which was just created or just added here, and then we're going to print that to the screen. And remember, health says 5. So let's compile and save that. Go to our test bed and press play. And now you see 5 and 10, because it goes sequentially up like that. Okay, let's go ahead and hit escape. All right, so let's go back and let's get into some gameplay stuff. So if I press play here and I'm moving this around, you can see I'm actually getting some weird movement. See how now I'm looking at the corner? Really, I just want to be able to move up and down and left and right, and then that'll affect my floor. I don't want it sort of rotating as I move around. So let's go back into our test bed here, and let's go down to the actual code, which is down here, that's moving our floor around, right? So let's kind of move this down here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is delete this guy out, the add actor world rotation, and I want to get the actual, just the rotation of our floor. So you can see here we have this section here, and what that'll do is that allow us to isolate it so that on this the X, Y, and Z axis, we can sort of freeze. So here's our X, we can kind of freeze that rotation, so that it's not, that's our ball I think I've selected. Yeah, there we go. So because what's happening is I'm rotating, I'm getting a little bit of movement here, and then I'm getting a little movement there, and you see how it's rotating? And so what I want to do is freeze this. And notice as I highlight over this, the word yaw. So this is our roll. So this is important too, because you're going to see these a lot, especially if you do it in Flight Simulator. This is our roll, where it's rolling left and right, kind of like an airplane. This is our pitch, which goes forward and back. And then this is our yaw, which you can see rotates like this. And I want to lock this in place. So I want to get my Z-axis on the yaw. So what I can do is just drag this out, and I can type get actor. You gotta forgive me, I'm like recording some of these at like 3 in the morning. Rotation. And so now I can get this actor rotation. But you're like, well, how do I get the X, Y, and Z? Well, the first thing that came to mind is that we had this split struct that we used before. Now you can see I have the roll, I have the pitch, and I have the yaw. Remember we were looking at the yaw a moment ago. So let me go ahead and save that. All right, so let's bring our mouse X back in. So now that we have the actual X value, Y value, and Z value of the floor, right? We're actually, just to kind of be clear, we're actually accessing this slot here in our transform. What I want to do is I want to add these values together. So as I'm moving my mouse around, it's going to add it to whatever the current X value is here. So you could just drag that out, type add, grab your add function, and actually we should wire this way, just for cleanliness, and that way. And then I'm going to copy this and then paste it, just put it down here. And I'm going to add this to my Y value. So let's go ahead and take this get mouse Y and, multiplies by -1. And I'm just going to add this here. And what that'll do is, again, give us that ability to, remember this negative value as I'm moving my mouse forward and back, it inverted the movement. And then we have this value of C. Now, where do we plug this in? We want to get a make rotate. We want to grab our make, let's see, rotator. Here it is. And what this will do is this will combine all of these new values we just created into into one rotation value that we can reapply because we have to set our floor's rotation again, putting that all together. And you could see my my z value is here is a 0. All right, so now we have this make rotator. We have our z locked in at 0 here. And what we can do now is we have our get actor rotation. Can you think about, like, or guess, well, what would we use to set our actor's rotation, right? And then after that, so just maybe pause and think for a minute, like, how do I set this up? I'm kind of giving you a hint here by copying these two nodes to set our actor's rotation. All right, so I'm going to drag this out. I'm just going to type set actor. Actually, I might have to actually grab my actor here and then hit Command C and then just put my cursor up here so it pastes it here. I might have to drag this out and do set, actor rotation, which is here. And now what I can do is I have this wired in. Let's put our event tick up here for a moment. Let's bring this into here and let's wire this value in. And this is our new rotation. What you'll see a lot of people do is they always leave their events up front like this, and then they just use those path nodes to kind of clear up the space a little bit. Something like this. Sometimes I can get a little path node crazy. Come on, there you go. Where I'll do like one here, like it becomes like, but anyway. So that looks pretty good. Let's compile and save that. And we should now have movement. There we go. And now I'm like moving it around and I can only go in those two values because we locked our Z axis. So let's, again, file save all, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's take a look at something else really quickly. As we're playing our game, I can actually move this indefinitely with my mouse, and it would be good if we sort of clamped or held this in place so that it only goes a little bit like that, so we can control sort of gameplay as well. So if I hit F to focus and I kind of zoom out a little bit, to kind of move up, and again, it's going to take some getting used to. Especially I jump between Unity and this all the time. If I look at my axis rotation and I move it to the left, we got, I think, about 25, minus 25, and positive 25 is good. Maybe we just do the same thing here. 25. I mean, that might be good enough. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to set the value so that we can only move our mouse. We're just kind of polishing right now between two values. So the easy way to do this is we're just going to move these over a little bit here. I'm going to drag this out. I'm just going to type the word clamp. And here you can see there's clamp axis. Oh, actually, we want to do a clamp value, I think. Clamp. Clamp size max? No. Here it is. Sorry, it was hidden. Clamp float is what we want. So for the minimum value, I want minus 25. And for the max value, I want 25. And I'm going to use those exact same values for the X here. So let's just Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V. Let's just wire this into the, let's see, value node here. And then we'll just put this inside of the Y. So we get something that looks like this. Let's compile that and save that. Let's press play. Now you could see it kind of like stops hard as I'm moving my mouse around, which is nice. So we get a little bit more control. If you don't like it or you feel like that's too stiff or too rigid, you could always change those values. You know, we're just kind of sort of learning on real blueprints as well as like learning a little bit about some good game mechanics. And a lot of times I'm in the background, I'm always thinking of the MDA framework, which we've talked about in previous classes as we design these games, right? All right, I think that's good for now. Yeah, and then in the next one, we're going to expand a little bit more on coding, sort of not theory, but coding, like just understanding of how programming works in visual scripting. And we'll talk more about variables, and then we'll continue to expand on our game.